Here's a story that sounds impossible. In 1324, a king from West Africa goes on a pilgrimage to Mecca. He brings 60,000 people with him. He has 80 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold. And everywhere he stops, he gives away so much gold to the poor, to mosques, to anyone who asks, that he literally crashes the economy. Gold becomes so common in Cairo that its value drops by 25%, and it takes 12 years for the economy to recover. That king was Mansa Musa of Mali, and by some estimates, he's the wealthiest person in human history, richer than Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, or John D. Rockefeller. His personal wealth is estimated at around $400 billion in today's money. But here's the thing, Mansa Musa wasn't just rich. He ruled the Mali Empire, a West African empire that controlled the gold trade, established universities, built magnificent cities, and spread Islam across the Sahel. And most people have never even heard of it. So how did Mali become so wealthy and powerful? How did they control resources that Europe desperately wanted? And what eventually brought them down? I'm Jack, this is Blueprints of Power, and today we're uncovering one of the most underrated empires in history. Let's go.
Schemes in the shadows, plans in the light, kings and conquerors chasing the night. Brick by brick, their stories grow tall, but every empire learns how to fall.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Blueprints of Power. I'm Jack.
I'm Lily.
And I'm Charlie.
Today we're covering the Mali Empire, and I'm genuinely excited about this one because it's a story most people don't know.
I've heard of Mansa Musa because of the gold thing, but I don't know anything about Mali itself.
That's because African history is often overlooked in Western education. But the Mali Empire was one of the most sophisticated, wealthy, and influential civilizations in the medieval world.
At its peak in the early 1300s, the Mali Empire controlled about 478,000 square miles, roughly the size of Western Europe. It stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to what's now Niger, covering parts of modern-day Mali, Senegal, Mauritania, Guinea, Gambia, Niger, and Burkina Faso.
That's huge.
And it lasted from about 1235 to 1600, over 350 years. During that time, Mali controlled the gold trade from West Africa to North Africa and Europe, established Timbuktu as a center of learning, and created a system of governance that kept diverse peoples united.
And here's something amazing. While Europe was in the Middle Ages, Timbuktu and Mali had universities with extensive libraries, scholars teaching mathematics and astronomy, and students from across the Muslim world coming to study.
So Timbuktu was like the Harvard of Africa?
More like the Oxford or Bologna of Africa. It was a genuine center of intellectual life.
So today we're covering the rise, the reign, and the fall of the Mali Empire, how they built wealth through trade, how they governed a massive territory, and what eventually caused their decline.
And I think it's important to note that studying African empires challenges a lot of stereotypes. Africa had sophisticated civilizations, complex trade networks, and incredible achievements. They just don't get taught as much.
All right, I'm ready to learn. Lily, where does Mali come from?
Okay, so to understand Mali, we need to start with the geography of West Africa. There's this region called the Sahel. It's the transition zone between the Sahara Desert to the north and the tropical forests to the south.
So it's between the desert and the jungle.
Exactly. And this region has two incredibly valuable resources, gold from the south and salt from the north.
Salt? That seems random.
Salt is essential for human survival. You need it to preserve food, maintain health, and in hot climates, you sweat it out constantly. In the Sahara and Sahel, salt is literally worth its weight in gold. There are stories of merchants trading gold for salt ounce for ounce.
So gold for salt, equal trade?
In some places, yes. And the Sahel is perfectly positioned to control trade between the gold-producing regions in the south and the salt-producing regions and North African markets in the north.
So geography makes them middlemen?
Exactly. And before Mali, there was another empire that figured this out, The Ghana Empire, which controlled this trade from about 700 to 1200 AD. Ghana got wealthy by taxing the gold and salt trade passing through their territory.
Wait, there was a Ghana Empire?
Yes, different from modern-day Ghana, but it was the first major West African empire. It controlled the trade routes and became incredibly rich. But by the 1200s, Ghana is declining, partly from internal problems, partly from attacks by the Almoravid dynasty from North Africa.
So Ghana falls and creates a power vacuum?
Exactly. And various groups compete to fill that vacuum. One of them is the Mandinka people, led by a clan called the Keita. And here's where our story really begins. Around 1235, a ruler named Sundiata Keita defeats the Soso kingdom at the Battle of Kirina and establishes the Mali Empire.
Sundiata? That's a cool name.
He's a legendary figure. According to oral tradition, which is how much of West African history was preserved through griots or storytellers, Sundiata was supposed to be killed as a child because a prophecy said he'd become a great ruler. But he survived, overcame disability, and became a warrior and leader.
So he's got this epic origin story?
Very epic. And after defeating the Soso, Sundiata establishes his capital at Niani and starts building the empire. He does something really important. He creates the Kurukan Fuga, which is like a constitution or charter.
A constitution in the 1200s?
Yes! It establishes laws, rights, and governance principles. It protects people's property, establishes clans and their roles, sets rules for inheritance, and even has environmental protections, like not cutting down certain trees.
So it's an advanced legal system?
Remarkably advanced for its time, and Sundiata also secures control of the gold trade routes. Mali doesn't produce gold itself. It comes from regions to the south near modern-day Ghana and Guinea, but Mali controls the routes that gold travels to reach North Africa and Europe.
So they tax it?
They tax it heavily. Merchants bringing gold into Mali pay taxes. Merchants taking gold out pay taxes. And the Mansa, the emperor, claims all gold nuggets. Regular people can trade gold dust, but nuggets belong to the ruler.
Why nuggets specifically?
To maintain gold's value. If everyone had gold nuggets, the price would drop. By controlling the supply, the Mansa keeps gold expensive and rare, which makes him incredibly wealthy.
That's smart economics.
Very smart. And after Sundiata, Mali continues to expand. The empire grows under subsequent rulers, incorporating more territory and peoples: Bambara, Fulani, Soninke, Tuareg, and others.
So it's multi-ethnic?
Very multi-ethnic. And Mali has to figure out how to govern all these different groups, which brings us to the greatest ruler in Mali's history.
Mansa Musa.
Mansa Musa. He comes to power around 1312, and during his 25-year reign, Mali reaches its peak of wealth, territory, and influence.
All right, quick break. If you're loving this story, and honestly, how have I never heard about this empire before? Hit that follow button, subscribe to Blueprints of Power on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. We're covering empires from every continent, every era, and every culture. Because power and history aren't just about Europe and Asia, they're global stories. And we're telling all of them. Share this episode with someone. Send it to a friend, a teacher, a family member. If you know someone who loves history or wants to learn about African civilizations, this is the perfect episode for them, and please leave us a review. It helps more people discover the show, and we genuinely appreciate every single one. Tell us what you think, what you're learning, what empires you want us to cover. All right, back to Mali. Because we're about to get into Mansa Musa's legendary pilgrimage and how Mali became the richest empire of its time. Ready? Let's go.
Okay, so Mansa Musa becomes emperor in 1312. What makes his reign so special?
Mansa Musa takes Mali to its absolute peak. Let me break down their recipe for power.
Ready for this recipe?
Ingredient number 1, controlling the gold trade. Under Mansa Musa, Mali controls both the sources of gold in the south and the trade routes going north across the Sahara to North Africa and the Mediterranean.
So they're the only ones who can get gold to market?
Essentially, yes. And during this period, West African gold is flooding into Europe and North Africa. It's estimated that 2/3 of all gold in the Old World comes from West Africa.
2/3? That's insane.
It's enormous, and Mali controls the flow. They tax it, they regulate it, and the Mansa gets absurdly wealthy from it.
How wealthy are we talking?
Estimates of Mansa Musa's personal wealth range from $400 billion to over $600 billion in today's money. He's possibly the richest person in human history.
More than Bezos or Musk.
Way more. And ingredient 2, the trans-Saharan trade routes. Gold goes north, but salt, cloth, horses, and manufactured goods come south. Mali sits at the crossroads of these routes.
So they're trading more than just gold?
Absolutely. Salt from Tagaza in the Sahara, copper from the north, cola nuts from the south, enslaved people unfortunately, spices, textiles. Mali is a commercial hub.
So it's like a medieval global marketplace?
Pretty much. And the cities along these routes, Timbuktu, Jenne, Gao, become wealthy commercial centers. And ingredient 3, Islam and education. Mansa Musa is a devout Muslim, and he promotes Islam throughout the empire.
Is everyone in Mali Muslim?
No, it's religiously diverse. Many people, especially in rural areas, practice traditional African religions. But Islam is the religion of the ruling class, merchants, and scholars.
Why Islam specifically?
Islam connects Mali to the larger Muslim world, North Africa, the Middle East, Arabia. Muslim merchants trust other Muslims, so adopting Islam facilitates trade, and Islam brings literacy in Arabic, which helps with administration and record-keeping.
So it's practical as well as spiritual?
Both. And Mansa Musa makes Islam central to Mali's identity, which brings us to his famous pilgrimage in 1324.
The one where he crashes the economy.
That one. In 1324, Mansa Musa goes on Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca that Muslims are supposed to make. And he doesn't just go, he brings an entourage of 60,000 people.
60,000, that's like a small city traveling.
It's an enormous procession. He brings officials, soldiers, griots, servants, and people to carry supplies. He has 80 to 100 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold. And along the way, through the Sahara, through Egypt, through Arabia, he gives away gold.
Just gives it away.
To mosques, to the poor, to scholars, to anyone who asks. In Cairo, he gives away so much gold that the price of gold drops 25%. It takes 12 years for the economy to recover.
So he literally breaks the economy with generosity?
He does, and historians say he realizes his mistake on the way back and actually borrows gold at high interest to try to stabilize prices.
He tries to fix it.
He does, but the pilgrimage has another effect. It puts Mali on the map, literally. After Mansa Musa's Hajj, Mali starts appearing on European and North African maps. The 1375 Catalan Atlas shows Mansa Musa sitting on a throne holding a gold nugget.
So Europe learns about Mali?
Europe becomes aware that there's this incredibly wealthy empire in West Africa controlling the gold supply. And ingredient 4, Timbuktu and Centers of Learning. Mansa Musa expands Timbuktu and commissions the building of mosques and madrasas, Islamic schools.
What's special about Timbuktu?
Timbuktu becomes one of the great centers of learning in the medieval world. The Sankor Mosque becomes a university with one of the largest libraries in the world. Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, law, and literature.
Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts?
Estimates range from 400,000 to over 1 million manuscripts. Scholars from across the Muslim world come to Timbuktu to study and teach. It's like Oxford or Cairo or Baghdad, a place of intellectual excellence.
So while Europe's in the Middle Ages, Timbuktu has universities?
Exactly. And this challenges the stereotype that Africa was somehow backwards. West Africa had sophisticated intellectual traditions.
What were they studying?
Everything. Mathematics, astronomy, they're tracking stars and planets. Medicine, they're performing surgeries and creating remedies. Law, theology, poetry, history, and they're debating ideas, writing commentaries, and preserving ancient texts. And ingredient 5, governance and administration. Mali is divided into provinces, each governed by appointed officials. The Mansa appoints generals, judges, and administrators to run different parts of the empire.
So there's a bureaucracy?
A functioning bureaucracy, and they use a system where local rulers maintain some autonomy but owe allegiance and taxes to the Mansa. It's similar to feudalism, but adapted to West African conditions.
So they're keeping it flexible?
Yes. And ingredient 6, the army. Mali maintains a large army. Estimates range from 50,000 to 100,000 soldiers, including cavalry. Horses are valuable in the Sahel, and cavalry gives Mali military advantages.
So they can defend their territory?
And expand it. Mali incorporates numerous peoples through a combination of diplomacy, trade incentives, and, when necessary, military force.
Carrot and stick.
Exactly. And ingredient 7, cultural achievements. Mali has rich artistic traditions, music, oral storytelling through griots, sculpture, metalwork, and architecture. The Great Mosque of Djenné, made of mud brick, is one of the most iconic buildings in Africa.
Mud brick? That doesn't sound stable.
It's incredibly sophisticated. The mosque has been standing since the 1200s in various forms. The mud brick is mixed with rice husks and oil to make it strong and water-resistant, and the community replasters it annually. It's a communal event that brings everyone together.
That's actually beautiful. Architecture as community practice.
It is. And under Mansa Musa and his successors, Mali is at its peak. Wealthy, culturally vibrant, and powerful, but eventually, things start to change.
What goes wrong?
Before we get into the decline of the Mali Empire, I want to acknowledge something. African history has been systematically undervalued and undertold in Western education. But empires like Mali prove that Africa had incredibly sophisticated civilizations with achievements that rivaled or surpassed their European contemporaries. If you're enjoying Blueprints of Power, please share this episode specifically. This is a story more people need to hear. Send it to teachers, students, anyone interested in world history. Help us correct the historical record. Next week, we're covering the Mughal Empire, the empire that built the Taj Mahal, ruled most of India, and created one of the wealthiest civilizations in history. It's going to be spectacular, and please leave us a review. Every review helps new listeners find the show, and we appreciate every single one. All right, time to talk about how the Mali Empire declined and what happened to this extraordinary civilization. Let's get into it.
Okay, so Mali is at its peak under Mansa Musa. What causes the decline?
The decline is gradual and caused by multiple factors. First problem, succession struggles. After Mansa Musa dies around 1337, his successors aren't as capable. There are disputes over who should rule, and some Mansas are weak or incompetent.
So leadership quality drops?
Significantly. And when central authority weakens, provinces start acting independently. Local rulers stop sending tribute and start keeping wealth for themselves.
So the empire fragments?
It starts to fragment, yes. And second problem, external threats. The Tuareg people, Berber nomads from the Sahara, start attacking Mali's northern territories. In 1433, they capture Timbuktu.
So they lose their intellectual capital?
They do. And even though Mali recaptures Timbuktu briefly, they lose it permanently by the mid-1400s. The Tuareg control it, and later the Songhai Empire takes over.
What's the Songhai Empire?
Songhai is another West African empire that rises as Mali declines. They're originally subjects of Mali, but as Mali weakens, Songhai grows stronger. Under the ruler Sunni Ali in the late 1400s, Songhai conquers much of Mali's territory and becomes the new dominant power in the region.
So Mali gets replaced?
By Songhai, yes. And third problem, the trade routes shift. As the Songhai take control of cities like Timbuktu and Gao, they control more of the gold trade. Mali still controls some routes, but their commercial dominance declines.
So they're losing their economic base?
Their main source of wealth, yes. And fourth problem, political fragmentation. As Mali weakens, Various groups that were part of the empire break away. The Mossi kingdoms to the south raid Mali's territories. The Fulani and other groups assert independence.
So everyone's leaving?
The empire shrinks significantly. By the late 1400s and 1500s, Mali controls only a fraction of its former territory, mostly the original Mandinka heartland around Niani.
Do they ever try to reconquer?
There are attempts, but they don't succeed. Mali doesn't have the military or economic strength anymore. And fifth problem, the arrival of Europeans on the coast. Starting in the 1400s, Portuguese explorers start sailing down the West African coast.
So Europeans show up?
Yes, and they establish trading posts directly on the coast, in Senegambia, in the Gold Coast region. This bypasses the trans-Saharan routes that Mali controlled. Now Europeans can trade directly with coastal peoples for gold, bypassing Mali entirely.
So their monopoly is broken?
Completely. The trans-Saharan trade continues, but it's less important. Coastal trade becomes dominant, which benefits coastal kingdoms but hurts inland empires like Mali.
So geography turns against them?
In a way, yes, and Mali continues to exist in diminished form for another century or so. But by 1600, Mali is just a small kingdom, no longer an empire. The Songhai Empire becomes the dominant power until they're conquered by Morocco in 1591.
So what's Mali's legacy?
Mali's legacy is enormous. They established Timbuktu as a center of learning. Those manuscripts I mentioned, many survived and are still studied today. The University of Timbuktu preserved knowledge that might have been lost otherwise.
So the intellectual legacy survives?
Partially, yes. Though many manuscripts were destroyed or lost over the centuries, tens of thousands still exist, and they're revealing just how sophisticated West African scholarship was.
What else?
Mali spread Islam across West Africa, which shaped the region's culture and identity. The Mandinka people and language spread across the region, and Mali proved that African empires could be as wealthy, sophisticated, and powerful as any in Europe or Asia.
So Mali challenges stereotypes?
Completely. And modern Mali, the country that exists today, takes its name from this empire. The legacy of Sundiata and Mansa Musa is still part of West African identity.
All right, we've covered the rise, the golden age, and the fall of the Mali Empire. Time for lessons. What can we learn from the wealthiest empire in medieval Africa? Charlie, you're first.
Okay, here's mine. Control the supply, control the wealth. Mali didn't produce gold. It came from regions to the south. But Mali controlled the routes that gold had to travel to reach markets that made them rich. The lesson? You don't always have to produce the valuable thing. Sometimes controlling the distribution or access is just as valuable. That's true for resources, information, or platforms today.
Distribution is power.
Exactly.
That's great. Mine's about investing wealth in knowledge and culture. Mansa Musa didn't just hoard gold. He built mosques, libraries, and universities. He funded scholars and education. And that created something that lasted beyond Mali's political power. The lesson? Wealth is temporary, but knowledge and culture can be permanent. If you want a lasting legacy, invest in education, arts, and intellectual life, not just material things.
Culture outlasts kingdoms.
Always.
Perfect. Mine's about the importance of telling diverse stories. Most people have never heard of the Mali Empire, even though it was one of the wealthiest and most sophisticated civilizations of its time. That's not because Mali wasn't important. It's because we've told a selective version of history that centers Europe and excludes Africa. The lesson? Whose stories get told matters. Representation in history shapes how we see the world today. We need to seek out and share stories from all cultures, not just the dominant ones.
History isn't neutral. It's a choice about what we remember.
Exactly.
That's really important.
This episode was eye-opening. I learned so much.
Mali deserves to be as famous as Rome or the British Empire. They were just as significant.
Agreed. And hopefully more people learn about them after hearing this.
Can we do more African empires?
Absolutely. We'll cover more.
Ethiopia, Great Zimbabwe, Kush. There are so many incredible African civilizations to explore.
We'll get to all of them. All right, next week we're covering the Mughal Empire. The empire that ruled most of India built the Taj Mahal and created one of the wealthiest civilizations in history. It's going to be stunning.
The Mughals are incredible. This is going to be a beautiful episode.
I'm so ready. It'll be fun. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging with us on Blueprints of Power.
I'm Lily.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jack, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.